Brides have cake questions. To answer them, 4 great cake bakers.
My name is Ron Ben Israel, and I'm a baker.
I'm Sylvia Weinstock, and I am a baker who does pretty cakes.
I'm Gail Watson from Gail Watson Custom Cakes in New York City.
I'm Elisa Strauss, and I'm the owner of Confetti Cakes Bakery.
When a bride comes to see us, we want to know, where is the wedding being held? Is it at the beach? Is it at a club? Is it at a very elaborate hotel? That helps with the decor. Her gown, embroidery might help with the decor. The season helps with the decor.
I warn them to stay with an open mind. I often see somebody sees one of our cakes in the Knot magazine and they love this cake. And they think that that's what they would want for the wedding. But by the time we discuss the time of the year, the location, the feel of the whole wedding, she may change her mind. My task is not to repeat the same cake twice, but together with the bride come to an artistic and a culinary solution that is just hers.
One of the first questions I'll ask brides when they come to visit is when they're getting married, and based on the season they're getting married in, we'll come up with a flavor.
There's so many elements that go into designing and making a cake. If you use the best butter on the market, imported chocolate, fresh fruit, buttercream icing, something that you know that you eat that and you say, it sings to me.
To make a cake for 100 people, the ingredients involved are things like it takes about 15 cups of flour, about 12 cups of sugar between the icing and the cake itself, about 7 pounds of butter, 24 eggs in the cake, another 15 eggs in the icing, and a little mix it all together, a little heat, the magic of heat in the oven, and you have a wedding cake.
Buttercream is good for you. Buttercream, as the name implies, is mostly butter. However, rather than eat a stick of butter, we start with whipped egg whites called meringue, and the meringue is being cooked while it's being whipped until it triples in volume. Into the whipped egg whites, we start folding the very sweet and very dense butter until we get a cross between mousse and a ganache.
One of the best fillings that we use is a Swiss meringue buttercream, which is made up of sugar, egg whites, and of course, rich butter. And we always use unsalted butter, and it's a great base for a cake. It's nice and airy, but you can also add any type of flavoring into it to make a nice chocolate buttercream, praline buttercream. You can really flavor it any way you want.
We only use buttercream on our cakes because I think it's worth eating. I'm not serving you anything I won't eat. And buttercream is made of an Italian meringue, which is egg white, sugar, and imported fresh sweet butter. We don't use salted butter because the salt is a preservative in butter, and there's no way of knowing how fresh the butter is. So sweet butter, you know, is fresh and delicious. That's buttercream.
I always feel that we need to make enough cake for everybody that is invited for the wedding. Let's talk about a wedding for 200 people. You would have 20 tables with a centerpiece for each table. Then the bridal gown will have 6 feet long train. How would you feel if the cake would be tiny and would serve only 50? That's just for the visual effect. On the other hand, when people hear how delicious the cake is, they all want to have a slice, sometimes even 2 slices.
You know, when a bride comes in and she says, I'm having 250 guests, we already know approximately how many cuts or portions one can get from a certain size layer. That this might feed about 50 people, generously. Of course, it depends on who's cutting it. Also, a chocolate cake you can cut smaller because it's dense and rich. A white cake filled with fresh fruit needs a bigger cut. So all of those make an adjustment in the size for us.
Stay tuned for more Knot TV.
Ganache is the yummiest cake filling that impossible.
Ganache is a delicious filling that is made up of heavy cream and chocolate. And depending on what kind of chocolate you use, gives it the nice rich flavor.
Ganache is so rich, we usually couple it with Swiss meringue buttercream, which has a higher percentage of egg whites. You could apply chocolate ganache, which is so heavy and dark, next to a pure vanilla cake.
When we use ganache in our cakes, we try and steer the client away from also doing a chocolate-based cake. So if we're using the rich ganache filling, we may use a nice preserve to break it up, or a nice light vanilla cake to complement the rich filling.
I have 2 bakers, 2 ices, and a carpenter. In terms of the flowers, there may be a half a dozen people that have made the flowers that are on this cake. So and then someone has to decorate it, and someone has to deliver it. So we are a staff of 18 at the moment. And I think every one of the 18 has something to do with the end result of a cake.
I'm the luckiest baker in the world because I have a wonderful crew of bakers, artisans, delivery staff, and we start the process of designing and executing the cake long time in advance. All the drawings and sketches are made. Then the mise en place, making the buttercream, chopping the fruit, cutting the chocolate to pieces, reducing the fruit, that starts in the beginning of the week. Our crew of 13 works towards the goal of completing your cake the day before the wedding. Therefore, me, Ron Ben Israel, I just run around as a nervous wreck trying to fit in where I can, while my crew stays calm and collected and getting to complete the cake for the day of the wedding.
Rolled fondant is the frosting that we use to decorate our wedding cakes. It is the smooth finish that you'll find on most wedding cakes these days. It keeps the cakes nice and moist, and it's made up of confectioner's sugar and glycerin, which gives it its elasticity. And you can dye it any color under the sun.
It's rolled out into a sheet and then molded over the cake. And originally, fondant comes from Great Britain, where they make fruit cakes for wedding cakes, and the fondant is used to preserve the cake and as it ages and matures. Here, we do it because of aesthetics.
I once heard a cake designer say it's about 40 hours from the time that you meet with the client and discuss the design and baking the cake. We make all the cake from scratch and all the fillings. And sometimes just the decorations alone, you can start weeks ahead of time if it's made out of sugar or something like that. So, you know, the cakes, they take a long time. A lot of care goes into each one.
The difference between gum paste and sugar paste is not a whole lot of difference. Gum paste has gums in it very similar to what's in chewing gum, which makes it elastic and pliable. It also allows the paste to dry quickly. So we use that when making very delicate flowers. It enables us to roll out petals into thin pieces and manipulate and mold them and hold their shape. Sugar paste is the same thing. It doesn't have as much gum in it, so it's used for more support pieces, filigree, scroll work, things like that. Some things that don't need such a delicate edge.
There is something called gum paste, sugar paste, whatever they call it. We call it in our shop sugar dough. It's something we make. We don't buy it, and we make it in 100-pound batches practically. And this is what it is. It's a confectionery sugar. You're able to eat it. It's like a clay, but once it dries like this. And I hate the word sugar paste, or it isn't a paste. It's really a dough, like you would make a dough for a pie or a dough for bread.
Stay tuned for more Not TV.
And we want to get this romantic feeling, but not winter yet. So we may preserve our pure white cake, which is based on all egg whites and cream, but add a few spices to it, like cinnamon, nutmeg, cardamom are wonderful, a touch of cloves, and that will be a great introduction for the fall.
In the fall, it's nice to have heartier flavors like carrot cake or decadent apple cinnamon with brown sugar buttercream. Ooh, in summer, I love zesty lemon flavors with raspberry buttercream or something light and airy.
A summer luncheon, you would like something light, maybe fresh strawberries and cream in a cake.
Very important. We really should not use heavy cream, whipped cream. We should not use any kind of cheese in the summer like ricotta. The chance of bacteria developing with the combination of heat, sugar, and dairy is very dangerous.
Average amount of tiers in the wedding cakes really ranges based on the number of people. In some customs, the number is very important. They might want an odd number or an even number. We're seeing a lot of cakes that are 4 or 5 tiers that pretty much makes for a 150-person wedding, and that seems to be the average that we're seeing now.
I would imagine it's somewhere between 15 and 25, sometimes the larger the cake, maybe up to 50 or 60 pounds. Different types of icings are heavier than others, different cake types or fillings are heavier than others, and sometimes it takes 2 men and a boy to carry them, certainly.
I find out that most of our wedding cakes cannot be lifted with one person. We always deliver our cakes by 2 people. I had a few times the occasions to fly our cakes, and when we weighed at the airport, we realized they're between 70 to 80 pounds. However, the heavier the cake, the moister it is, the richer it is, and also the more stable.
In order to keep the cake from falling over, each cake is supported with dowels in each layer, and then another dowel goes through the center, so the weight of the cake doesn't collapse the cake, and also it won't shift left to right when you're trying to move it.
Since the wedding cakes are so heavy, they sit on a wooden base. So they're very structurally sound, and we make all sorts of assurances that nothing will happen.
For more answers to your cake questions, go to theknotau.com/cakefaq.